Hello all you Bladers, and obviously Shu Kurenai in the original Beyblade Burst series lost to Louis Shirasagi, and his base Storm Spriggan was cracked, and he was not able to fulfill his promise to Volt Alloy, going to the finals, eventually leading to his revenge-seeking and power-hungry Red-Eye transformation. However, what if in this video we make up a story about if Shu beat Louis in the semifinals of that tournament instead? Now, this is assuming his Bay isn't cracked by Wakia before, although we are going to be comparing that to the original storyline. Now, if Shu beat Louis in the original finals, Louis is obviously going to be very angry at this, because originally, Louis is a very powerful blader, and before, in the first 5 years, Wakia had lost to Shu in the semifinals, and Shu had lost to Louis in the finals, making Shu the runner-up of the championship National Japan Beyblade title 5 times in a row, and Louis is the undefeated 5-time National Japan Championship, only losing to Free De La Hoya, the world champion, in the world finals. I assume they never really show this. But this would obviously make Louis very angry, because he knows that he's beaten Shu so many times, and Shu would obviously take this to heart and be very happy about it, because this is what he'd been striving for 6 years. Now, in the finals, I kind of want to repeat the theme of Shu being the runner-up, though, because in the finals, Shu would lose to Volt, and this would make Shu angry, because he was blading before Volt, and yet Volt, with this positive attitude and all these friends around him, naturally comes into Shu's life, becomes so powerful in such a short amount of time before Shu's eyes. All their battles led to this, where Volt immediately won the National Japan Championship title, something that Shu had been striving for such a long time in his life. He put so much effort, hours, blood, sweat, and tears into this moment, and he lost, not only to Louis for the past 5 years, but after defeating him, finally having some hope. That hope was broken by his only friend, Volt Alloy, who beat him. Now, naturally, this would make Shu want to revenge against Volt as he originally did. Before, however, his revenge was because he couldn't keep the promise to Volt and was weak. This time, it's because after 5 years, he finally won against Louis, and he finally had a glimmer of hope, but it was destroyed because, again, he was too weak in comparison to Volt's, and he was jealous by Volt's power. He wants revenge. Naturally, Volt would be the national champion of Japan, invited to BC Seoul, and would take a liking to Free De La Hoya, the world champion. They would be the rivals that Shu and Volt could have been, where Free and Volt are going back and forth with each other, battling, becoming the best of friends, the best of bladers in BC Seoul, with the original team, Rentaro, Silas, and Kuza, becoming friends, pushing each other to their limits, being rivals. Shu would find power in the Raging Bulls, and goes to battle Louis with his Legend Spriggan in the original grass field that they would battle in the God series. This time, however, Shu is not afraid of Louis. Shu simply wants revenge, and he will go at any length to get it. So this time, Shu and Louis go head-to-head, and not only does Nightmare Longinus not have an advantage, but they go straight on equals with each other. Louis has noticed how powerful Shu has become, and has gained an unknown respect for him. Louis now respects Shu as a blader because he considers Shu as an equal, not only as the only blader who could ever defeat him, or have the ability to. Now this time, Volt also assumes that Shu has gone missing, and like the original storyline, goes into the snake pit to battle him, but this time, Free is going to go with him, and they're going to battle against Shu and Louis. Now they don't know that Shu is under the mask, nor do they know Louis is under the mask, because Louis is wearing the snake pit mask just for the tradition of the snake pit. Now, Volt beats Shu again, and Free beats Louis again, which takes Shu and Louis in a downward spiral, and they defeat them. Obviously, all the bladers come. Volt and Free decide to come back another time because they don't know that this is Louis and Shu. They know that they're Nightmare Longinus and Legend Spriggan, but they don't know who the bladers are under the mask, so they decide to leave, looking later. However, Shu and Louis under the mask are very devastated by this, and do not know what to think of it. They're very revengeful this time, because they're rivals of old, they're friends of old, beat them once again. And this takes them into custody in the snake pit under Theodore Glass, being influenced by the snake pit and being consumed by their bays, Longinus and Spriggan, commencing the Requiem project once again, but this time, not only does Shu get created Spriggan Requiem, but Louis gets created his own Requiem Longinus, not the best name, but it's called the Requiem project for a reason, and Shu and Volt win the BC Seoul National Team Championship against SB Rios. Now, before this, obviously, Joshua Burns would naturally go looking for Shu in the Raging Bulls or Free. This time it's Shu because the storyline's different, but he doesn't find them there, and he goes to the second choice, SB Rios, with Big Five members Xander and Red Wu. Naturally, the matchups are very close, but BC Seoul clutches the final championship against SB Rios and wins the team championship, with Volt and Free being the top two members, Silas beating Joshua in the end, and Rentaro and Kuza pulling their weight as well. After this, obviously, the Louis and Shu return to the 12-Blader World Championship, where Volt and Free do as well as all the original Bladers. This time, Volt beats Free in the semifinals as well, but in the semifinals of Louis versus Shu, they are both consumed by their bays. They're both pure evil, wanting revenge and wanting the power. They both go at each other so hard. This time, however, Shu takes out Louis, not by bursting his bay, but by Louis cracking Shu's bay. Now, cracking does not necessarily mean breaking. Louis is able to puncture Spriggan by putting a crack in his bay, but ultimately Shu is able to defeat Louis with a score of 3-2. In the finals, Volt pushes Spriggan to its limit, originally like the original storyline, trying to get Shu to realize how powerful and fun Beyblading is, and how powerful of a blader Shu has become over all this time, and to give up the path of revenge and hate. However, Volt beats him again, and not only does he beat him, which normally would bring Shu back to the light this time, but he breaks Spriggan because of the crack Louis put in him before. And this is the cliffhanger we're kind of going to end on in this part 1, which I'm going to do a part 2 of this, because I kind of want to think about the story a little bit more, and I might not do a part 2 if this doesn't get very many views, because I kind of want to do a part 2 if it seems popular to you guys. So this would be if Shu beat Louis in the original finals and basically reverses the storyline where Free and Volt are the rivals that Shu and Volt could have been, and Shu, after God, not only doesn't become good, but becomes even more hungry for revenge, going into Turbo with Iger being into the story, and all the other Bladers with Chozy and even Phi entering the story, and who knows what I'll think of. I haven't thought of it yet, but that'll be it for this video. Yeah. Subscribe if you enjoyed. Let me know if you want more of this fan fiction, anime theory stuff. I've done a couple of this before. They seem to do pretty well, and they're generally pretty fun to do. I like talking about the anime. It's just a hassle to put all the pictures in, and it takes a while, but I'll do it, and that'll be it. Subscribe if you enjoyed, and don't forget to keep on blading.